Welcome to the Minder Show. I'm Oro, the founder of Minder, and every week I'm interviewing a top leader in the web3 space. Today I'm sitting with a hustler. A lot of people think that you need to have 100K followers to start to thrive, but my guest of today managed to build his empire by doing 5 figures as a ghostwriter. And without having a huge follower count, sitting now at 7,774 followers. He started working in Web3 companies such as Compass.art, Binance, and he also nurtured his personal branding at the same time. And today, he found his ghostwriting agency. Good afternoon, Kelano. How are you today?
Good afternoon, Oro and the Minder community. I'm doing awesome, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, every time someone asks me, I'm always doing good because I decide to be doing good every single day. So, yeah, fantastic, man. What about you? How is the snow treating you?
Doing well, doing well. It's a great transition from Asia to the mountains because the last one I interviewed is Alex's building, and I was in Asia. It was 2 weeks ago. So yeah, 35 degrees to -2 is always a good a great shock. But I'm a mountain guy, so I like this thing. So yes. Um, there's one thing that is impressive and amazing is that from what I study with you, you started um, taking seriously your personal branding around April to May 2023. What was this trigger decision from your side, and why at this time?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. So, I've been working in social media, let's say, or with social media tools for a very long time. It started in 2012, 2013. I was a promoter back then, running techno and house raves in London. And I started using Facebook to promote my parties. So I was using Facebook ads, which at the time was called Power Editor for the OGs that would remember. And we ended up
Yeah.
selling out our parties pretty quickly. And I was literally one of the first people in London to use Facebook ads to promote club parties or raves effectively. So that was the beginning of my time with social media. I was running my parties, and so obviously that was a lot through Instagram at the time and Facebook. We had even the Facebook groups. We even had lists of ravers on BlackBerry Pin, if some of you remember. And so that's how I kind of got into social media. And then I was helping other promoters who saw what I was doing and were quite curious. So they said, "Hey, can you help us? Can you? How do you do this? So help us run ads." And one thing led to another. I started having a few more people asking for help, and I turned that into a very small, I guess, a one-man agency for social media growth. So I had a personal trainer reaching out to me, like in the fitness industry. I had a
Oh,
life coach reaching out to me.
from the
So it
event
kind of
vibe.
branched out from.
From the event, from the what were you were doing in the event sex niche, you got some personal coach and life coach that reached you out because you were doing this, like parties and also or stuff.
Yeah, so it was,
Oh,
people, yeah, people who were in my circle, I guess, or kind of
okay,
knew what I was doing, and were in different industries themselves. Kind of reached out and said, "Hey, you seem to be knowing what you're doing with those Facebook ads. You're growing your Instagram page quite fast for the company. So,
yeah,
like, how are you doing this? And even my own page, my own Instagram at the time, I grew from like zero to I think 4,000 followers. Now,
wow,
all those people, a lot of them have gone. So my Instagram is pretty inactive. I think you've checked it. I don't
yes,
know how many followers I have, but like less than
no,
3,000 now. So
yeah,
I've lost a lot of followers over the last 10 years. But, at the time in 2014 or something, growing to 4,000 followers was a pretty decent achievement without showing tits effectively. And so that, one thing led to another. I've been then kind of working with social media for ever since. And in 2017, I fell into dropshipping, which, if anyone knows dropshipping in the 2017 era with Facebook ads, it was the golden era.
yeah,
And once
yeah.
again, I started pushing and building brands on social media, mostly on Instagram. And so I've been working with brands and building brands for a long time.
Yeah.
but I've never really pushed my own brand because I made a mistake. There is no excuses or no real reason outside of
Yeah.
saying I should have pushed my own brand. And then I got
Yeah.
into crypto in 2021. I mean, 2020, the COVID lockdown obviously made a lot of us get into crypto, I think. And then 2021, I got into NFTs, and I quickly realized I wanted to do that for full time job. I wanted to be in the industry, and I did everything I could to leave my Web2 job, and I got into crypto. And we can go into all that detail in a moment. But the long story short is I started working with businesses, as you mentioned, Compass, where I was effectively the marketing manager, and I worked for Binance after that, where I was the NFT growth manager. So I've been just building other people's socials effectively, and I was kind of like, dude, like you're just slacking, I've seen
Yeah.
the last bull run in 2021, 2022. I was here, and I saw how
Yeah.
good content creators really changed their lives effectively through social media. And it was my birthday on May the 2nd, 2023. I turned 37, and I thought to myself, you know what? For this year, this not this calendar year, but for this birthday year, you really, really need to step the fuck up of your game, because otherwise, when the next bull run happens, I'm just gonna miss out on opportunities. So yeah, I kind of made a promise to myself the two
Yeah.
days before my birthday that I would be going all out on content creation for my personal brand this year. And that was 3 days before my birthday. And I put out my first thread on April 30th. And then
Yes.
it went pretty well. And we can talk about that in a moment as well. But that was the beginning of the Kelano as you know him today.
Yeah, yeah. That's funny because you're from May 2nd, I'm from May 3rd. So that's funny.
Right.
Um yeah, you mentioned that you were not taking seriously your personal branding, and I seen on your Facebook that you started somehow doing some vlogs in 2017. So I'm curious, like, why did you start this, and why didn't you commit into this fully?
Yeah, so in 2017, so I was a life coach at the time, and there are a lot of things that I've done. So we can dive into some of those a little bit deeper. But as I mentioned, when I was doing those Facebook ads for other people, I got a life coach that reached out to me, and I was already quite interested in personal development. I like reading a lot. I like reading personal development books, biographies or autobiographies as well. And so this guy was a life coach. He was already my friend. So he started inviting me to personal development conferences. And I kind of really fell in love with the life coaching industry and the personal development industry as well. So I studied psychology in university. I'm a dropout, but I still studied. So I was already quite interested in personal development from a distance, let's say, and that kind of brought me back into that mindset of how can I be more productive? How can I help other people be more productive, become the better version of themselves that they aspire to be? And so I got a coach myself, I got a mentor, and I got a coach. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to be a life coach. That's the long story
Hmm.
short. But yeah, I
Yeah.
was kind of tired of the music industry because it was a great, fun, passion project, but it was never really a big money maker.
I agree.
Just wasn't a big money maker. So I decided to leave the industry, the music industry, and kind of give myself a chance as a life coach. So I started in late 2016, I think, or 2017, and then I was also going to Toastmasters. Maybe some of you may know. It's effectively it's international, but it's a group, a public speaking group where you can go basically every week. There are dozens, hundreds of Toastmaster groups around the country, and I'm sure if you live in a decent sized city, if you Google it, there will be a Toastmasters nearby. And yeah, I was going to Toastmasters, doing a lot of public speaking, and I was doing my life coaching. And I thought, you know what? I think there is a big opportunity. I was a pretty big Gary Vee fan already
Yeah.
for a few years. And if you know Gary Vee, he's going to tell you you have to crush it on the content side and you should
Yeah.
document your journey rather than try to create content. So I started a blog where, yeah, I was just basically sharing my knowledge, my learnings from being a coach and building my own business. So I think I did, I don't know how many episodes I did, but like not that many. I think four, maybe five. Yeah, that was the beginning of my vlogging life, you know.
Yeah.
But I just didn't really feel like it was exactly what I wanted. So I just didn't know exactly what at the time, but it just wasn't exactly right. It wasn't exactly what I wanted to do. But in hindsight, you know, had I persevered maybe for 20 episodes or 30 or 50 episodes, I would have probably found a better rhythm. So once again, no excuses. It's all on me. But yeah, that's how the vlogging life started. I actually remember shooting my very first episode and thinking, oh, how can I do this intro and stuff? And I was already doing a lot of editing, so it was pretty high quality in terms of editing, I guess, for a first time vlog. But yeah, I just didn't really pursue the adventure.
That's interesting. Yeah, I had the same problem. I did a lot of things. I did also some event. That's like I've hosted some mini festivals, so I know those kind of thing. Did this communication, so I feel you when regarding the event side. It's not gain rewarding as much because you need to invest a lot of money and you're not sure that you will get everything funded afterwards. So yeah, I understand this. Regarding what you did during those vlogs in 2017, which was videos, and then you shifted into Twitter, which is mainly writing things, and now it looks like you're getting into the voice from what a tweet that you said. I think it was this week, and so I'm curious. What is your best part? How do you know how? Like, if there's a listener that is listening to this, how can he know that he's better in video, writing, or using the X space with the voice?
I think how to know what you are the best at. I think mostly comes from practice. You know, being a
Mm,
public speaker or a journal, like an audio speaker on Spaces, or being a writer, most likely comes from which skill you have practiced the most. You know,
yeah,
so I think for me, why I say I want to get back into speaking is because I think I've trained a lot more in public speaking, and I personally just enjoy it more. You know, I am
yeah,
more than happy to go and do three spaces in one day and spend 4 or 5 hours on the mic than I am of thinking if I think, oh, I have to go and write three threads. So between yesterday and today, I've written four threads for different clients.
whoa,
And I like it, don't get me wrong, right?
yeah,
But, you know,
yeah,
after the third thread, I'm a little bit like, my brain starts to be a bit fried and I kind of want to take a break, to be honest, you know? But if
yeah,
I have to do five spaces today,
hmm,
my enthusiasm is never going to diminish, and I'm always happy to be talking to interesting people, interviewing people, or being interviewed, whichever way, or just participating to an interesting conversation. So I think it's like when the volume starts increasing, which
yeah,
one is the one where your enthusiasm does not diminish, if that makes sense. And that's
yeah.
kind of like how I feel. I just estimate, which one I want to push the most.
Yeah, yeah. Well, on my side, I struggle a lot to understand because when you start social media, it's well on X or LinkedIn, it's mainly written part, and I know that I'm better at speaking or better at presenting something, so that's why the X space or video content is better for me. So a lot of people follow the trends, but they don't take the time to know themselves and do their things. Um, I'm curious about one thing because you started as an event dude who hosted and created and did the communication of event thing. Then you did some ecom. Then you did some marketing because you're saying in your bio that you have a lot of marketing background, and you turned out to be a ghostwriter in the Web3 space. How did it come?
Sorry, how what?
How did being a ghostwriter? How did you say to yourself, okay, I'm a ghostwriter now, or I have some opportunities to be
Yeah,
a ghostwriter with the background that you have, which is not a
yeah.
ghostwriter,
So
right?
so that I mean, it really came out of the blue. It's not something I planned, to be honest.
Yeah,
But I want to make one thing clear is that although I say I've been creating content for my personal brand since May, I already have a pretty extensive experience in writing. I've
Yeah.
been working in marketing agencies since 2018, and I've spent probably 20 million pounds of budget in advertising, and I've written hundreds of ad copy for e-commerce, B2B, B2C, for a lot of businesses. So that really gave me a strong experience, one in writing and in writing good hooks, because if you do paid advertising, paid social media advertising, the number
Yeah.
one thing you have to focus is going to be your hook for your ad, right? For
Yeah.
your Facebook ads or your LinkedIn ads, etc. It's all about your
Facts.
hook, and then about your call to action, right? That's kind of like how your ads are structured, is your hook, then your benefit feature, and then a call to action. So that was a skill that I think was highly transferable to copywriting for Twitter specifically,
Hmm.
because when I wrote my very first thread, a lot of people said like it's a really well written thread, it's good hook and all that stuff, and it just made sense for me because I've been writing very short form content, these like 200, 300 characters for the
Yeah.
ads. That's usually kind of like the length of an ad, and I think that just served me really well for Twitter content. So when I started putting content in May, I mean, it just went really viral. There is no other way to say it. I think the first 14 days, I got over a million impression, and I had 2,800 followers when I started, because I had been on crypto Twitter for
Yeah.
a year and a half. So I had a Twitter presence, but I was never really writing content, right? And yeah, I got over a million impression in the first 14 days, and I think I ended the month with like 2.3 million impression or something like that, which was pretty crazy, to be honest. And so I
What's
did get noticed quite quickly. Sorry.
Yeah. What's your what when you started in April 30th? What was your how many posts were you posting every day?
Two tweets a day, or two threads a week. The
Okay.
classic,
Yeah,
the
classic. Yeah.
classic NFT God formula. So
Yeah.
and how I started, actually, I have to give a shout out to NFT God on this, because when I was working at Binance, I got in touch with NFT God for some reasons, for some business inquiries. And
Yeah.
then I joined his Discord, and there was this guy called Greg Lunt.
Yeah.
If you don't know
Yeah, I
him,
know
check
it.
him out on Twitter, Greg Lunt, just Lunt, and he was giving Twitter masterclass course lessons or videos, I guess, in NFT God's Discord. And he said something that I was kind of really looking at. I was doing my research. Okay, how am I going to write content and all that stuff? And I found this masterclass that was just recorded. So it wasn't even live. It had been posted like a week before. And Greg was saying, the best way to grow for a small account is not to talk about yourself or not to talk about like major events, but it's more to talk about people, and then write content about someone. Obviously, you're going to tag them in that piece of content,
Yeah.
and you must focus on people who have a pretty big reach and make a good enough piece of content so that they are going to retweet it. So I took that idea and I just ran with it. My first thread was about a guy called Moritz who had grown about 15,000 followers in 45 days. And I thought, damn, this
Whoa.
is a lot, right? So I kind of started doing research on how he grew that fast, etc. And I just did a breakdown on his strategy. And that went pretty viral. I think it had about 50,000 impressions in 24 hours, which at the
Nice.
time for someone with under 3,000 followers, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it's massive.
So that's sort of like how it started with the content side, and then for the ghostwriting, about 2 weeks into my content journey, so mid-May, I remember it was May 14th, I got an inquiry from a project founder, and he was asking if I was ghostwriting effectively. So I wasn't, but I
Yeah.
just saw a business opportunity, and I thought
Hmm.
to myself, how much can I charge this guy to write his content? So it took a few weeks. We went back and forth for about a month, and then we hopped on a call. And long story short, I managed to, bag this client, this new client, for $1,500 per month. And the deal was to write all his content, so two tweets a day, two threads a week. And then I also agreed to do the engagement for him at the time, which is, replying to the GMs and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm mentioning that now because I will talk about that again later. But yeah, the first inquiry came through putting out content, and it came out pretty quickly. 2 weeks into being serious about Twitter, I guess, and then that led to where we are today, with obviously a few more details in between.
Yeah, that's interesting because in the lesson there's a lot of newcomers into the Web3 space. I don't know if you have some close friends that are telling you, oh, Bitcoin is coming back, so their interest in Web3 for normies is coming back. What will be the three things to do for a newcomer if he wants to start his journey in X, not in Web3, in X first? Would you recommend like the
I think
Gregland strategy or or something else?
I think it's the easiest way. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think the easiest way, you're looking for retweets. If you want your content to be retweeted
yeah,
and bookmarked, these are the two most important metric. Even with today's algorithm, retweet and bookmarks are, the highest sign that your content is providing high value. Likes are cool, comments are
yeah,
cool, but when something is great, people either retweet it
yeah.
or bookmark it, right? So
Right.
I would say there are two big strategies. The first one would be to talk about other people and obviously tag them. So let's say I'm going to talk about whale. I'm going to talk about NFT. I'm just going to talk about the NFT circle here that I know,
Mhm.
but
Yeah,
it's valid for anyone. So for example, if you like so my strategy was I'm going to talk about NFT influencers and hope that they're going to retweet my content. But if you're not into NFT, let's say you're just into entrepreneurship, for example, there are a
yeah,
ton of weekly podcasts on YouTube. So for example, let's say My First Million is a really good podcast, and the two guys, Sampar and Sean, I never know how to say his last name, are also pretty active on Twitter, and they post a
hmm,
podcast pretty much on a weekly basis. So you could
okay,
be writing a really nice breakdown of the latest video they have. So you put their
mhm,
notification on YouTube, and then within 12 to 24 hours, you're gonna talk about that podcast. Obviously, you're tagging them in it, and the goal would be for them to retweet that piece of content. And that works for any industry where people have an existing piece of content on another platform, and then they are
mhm,
also active on Twitter. So there's a chance that they see you, and if the piece of content is good enough, then they will retweet it. So that would be for
mhm.
me the two best ways, or the two ways I would start an account if I had to start from zero. And then the
Yeah,
other way I would say is to help people make money, especially if you're in the Web3 space. Let's say you are a professional airdrop farmer, for example. It's a really hot trend right now. There are a
yeah,
ton of airdrops coming up, a ton of new tokens and new opportunities. And if you can do a really good break test upcoming
mhm,
tokens, or, like it's an infinite topic, right? So that would be something where you can help people make money. That is generally something that people are going to like. And they are very, very likely to bookmark that type of content as well, because they will want to go back to it.
yeah,
So that is something you have to keep in mind. It's not just creating content for the sake of creating content. Like, what is the outcome that you want out of it? I'm looking for a
mm.
retweet and I'm looking for a bookmark. These are my two main metrics that I care about.
That's alpha. That's alpha. Yeah, yeah. I wanted to ask a question regarding the Web3 space. Like, if someone arrives into the Web3 space, when I arrived into the Web3 space in 2020, it was the beginning of the NFT bull run, so it was pretty logical to get into this NFT niche, right? Regarding 2024, we all know that NFT might not be the mainstream thing, but it might be something else. As you mentioned, there's the airdrop things, there's the gaming narrative, there is, yeah, also the maybe the only the crypto space, maybe the NFT space. So if you if a newcomer is like, oh, I want to start Web3 space, what would you advise him to start with?
When you say Web3 space, you're not talking about Twitter space. You just mean the industry, right?
Yeah, industry space. What can he learn? What can he discover? Because he knows basically that he
Yeah, I
can
mean,
only do speculative things. So like trading, but there's much more than this. So what would you advise him to do first?
yeah, I think if you want to create content on and as a newcomer, the best thing, if you don't have a lot of experience, then you
Mm-hmm.
don't really have authority, and
Yeah,
authority is usually what creates a loyal following. So
yeah,
I would say the best way would be to start sharing what you're learning, because if you share what you're learning as a freshly a newcomer in the industry, then quite likely you're going to have a lot of people who are just one or two steps behind you. And I often find that you relate more to someone who's just learning what you are trying to learn than to
Hmm.
someone who is, a top tier established person. And funny enough, I was watching a YouTube video yesterday about this fitness dude on YouTube called Matt Thurston. So he's a pretty hench dude.
Oh yeah, yeah,
And he was talking about Sam Sulek. So if you don't know Sam Sulek, he's a bodybuilder effectively that just blew onto the scene recently. And I think he's got like 1 or 2 million followers on YouTube, and all his videos get about like 500,000 views, and he posts daily, right? So he's getting a massive traction. And
yeah.
this guy, Mike Thurston, was talking about this Samsulek and how he grew so fast. And he said something that I found really interesting. So when this guy, just call him Mike, when he started his content, he was in England, and he was living in Newcastle, a small town in England, like medium-sized town, let's say. And obviously, he didn't have a lot of money, so it was just kind of a raw type of content in his kitchen with his bunked up pots, and his one-bedroom apartment. Then he developed a pretty big audience, and obviously he started making money. And then he moved to, I think, in London in a fancy apartment, and then he moved to Dubai to an even fancier apartment. And he said that a lot of people, when he started moving out into fancier places, felt a disconnection with him from an audience perspective.
Oh
What
yeah.
I mean by that is, when like the reason why Sam Sulek is so popular probably is because he's just a normal dude driving a Honda Civic from 2001, and he has a regular kitchen, a regular house, and he looks like, outside of being jacked, he's just a regular dude, right?
Yeah.
And this Mike Thurston was in a position at some point, and then he kind of like evolved, made a lot of money, and then a lot of people stopped relating to him, right? Because it just wasn't as authentic anymore. The edit became really high quality. The video became 4K HD and all that stuff, right? So I think that's a really interesting point, and something that we can all take into our experience, even in Web3. If you're just a newcomer, we just started, was learning stuff. People
Yeah.
love to learn from people who are in the same circle or the same level as them. So I would say share your lessons,
Hmm.
share what you're learning,
Yeah.
and stay authentic, because you will have a lot more people that relate to you than you actually think.
That's funny. But I know this Mike dude. I saw him on the short or something like this, and it's funny that you're telling me this because I have another influencer in my mind, which is Iman Gadzhi. He documented all his life from his 14 years old to now he's a multi-millionaire guy with agency that I think he did a lot of money with the SMMA, documented everything from when he was broke to now his multi-millionaire company. So, and I think he managed this guy managed to still have the same community over the time because I don't know how he did it. So it's a pretty good case study that you're telling me that Mike had some disconnection when he was like leveling up into his object fancy thing and all those kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm curious about this. But back to you, Kelano. Um, maybe we can highlight the Web3 niche because as you mentioned, you did e-com market and those kind of thing. You said you knew with that you liked and loved Web3 and that Web3 was for you. What happened to you, man, when you knew this? Like, how did you know it was your thing and not e-com or life coaching and all those kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So when COVID happened, I was already working from home, but obviously when COVID happened, I was in England and we just couldn't go out, right?
Hmm.
So I hopped back on World of Warcraft. There is the World of Warcraft Classic that came
Yeah,
out, I think like
yeah,
2018, 2019, 2020. I'm not sure exactly, but
yeah.
when COVID was on, I was effectively playing WoW pretty actively, to be honest, and yeah, way too much. Let's put it that way, and I discovered. So I started doing crypto trading because I bought some Bitcoin in 2017, and
Mm-hmm.
it took a few years to go back to zero. I bought the top at the time, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I was just I was an exit liquidity at the
Mm-hmm.
time, and it took a few years to get back to zero. And I think around 2020, my bank was back to 0% loss. So I was pretty happy, and I started gaining interest into that again. And
Yeah.
then during COVID lockdown, I was trying to trade effectively. I bought a course. I was trying to trade on a day-to-day basis, being a day trader, not really like a long-term trader. And then I was playing WoW as well on the side a lot. And after a year and a half, 2 years of playing WoW Classic, I got a bit tired of it. And there was the next extension that was coming out, and I just wasn't as keen to play the next extension.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, I was getting a bit of interest with in NFT with Gary Vee. Was Gary Vee who was talking about his V Friend collection coming out. So that was basically how I discovered NFTs really. And as I started, getting into some Discord servers and doing some research on Twitter, etc., I felt a very similar kind of vibe as I was getting in World of Warcraft, which is like we were just jumping on voice chat in Discord, and instead of playing and killing Ragnaros, I was
Yeah.
trying to farm some NFTs and get some farm whitelist in Discord chat at the time, which was, peak bull run 2021. And I had a very similar vibe basically, and I was just instantly fell in love with that because it just reminded me of my gaming days, but instead of playing pixels, I was trying to make money and buying some JPEGs, right? So there was a lot of similarities in how I interacted with my new friends, and how on a day-to-day basis we would just hop in the same voice chat and keep that kind of community vibe together.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of it, the goal was obviously to make money, which was a lot better than just not make money and spend money on World of Warcraft. And yeah, in 2021 December, I remember I was trying to farm the Hape whitelist. If you
Yeah.
remember, that was a pretty high
Yeah.
project in 2021. I
Yeah.
obviously did not get the whitelist, even though I spent over 200 hours in voice chat. But that's one other story. And yeah, I was like, you know what, this is it, man. Like I started trading, and I was making good money in December. I remember I had something like 25 trades in a row that made money, because obviously it was peak bull run. You could throw shit at the wall and you would make money.
Yeah.
So I was like, man, I need to be in this industry, and I need to do everything I can to leave my current job and get into this industry forever, like 24/7. I was really obsessed, spending 10 hour plus a day in the NFT space, learning everything I can, meeting people, etc. And yeah, I just found a lot of similarities with the gaming industry, where we would quickly develop very strong friendships, even though we never physically met. There are some people that to this day I still speak with on a regular basis. So yeah, I think that was kind of moving away from being a gamer and trying to make money out of spending so much time in various communities. That was really attractive for me at the beginning.
I think there's some similarities between gaming and Web3 space regarding the grind mindset. And you were talking about trading and NFT flipping. What about 2024? Are you still a daily trader flipping NFTs? What's your plan right now?
No, I'm definitely not trading very much these days. I'm now trying to focus on predictable revenue instead of peak wins and peak losses.
Yeah.
So I think when you start in the NFT space, often you're going to try and be a flipper, because that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like high activity, daily activity. You always have something to mint, something to sell.
Yeah.
But I did get my wings a little bit burned in 2022 when the bear market was starting. I obviously lost money, like all of us. I made some money, but I lost some money, right?
Yeah.
And now I've been focusing on building a business out of Web3 rather than just being a DJ effectively, right? So right now I'm much more focused on building my business, scaling my monthly revenue, because it feels like it's a lot safer and a lot more predictable as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know how much I'm making this month from my clients. I know how much I'm going to make next month from my clients. I'm building my newsletter as well, which obviously will be monetized at some point. And that's one of my favorite predictable revenue and most scalable businesses that you can do in Web3
Yeah.
is running a newsletter. So yeah,
Right.
right now I'm not focused on trading too much. Not enough, to be honest. I should kind of try and get a few whitelists here and there, because there is obviously a ton of money that can be made. But no, right now I'm focusing on making predictable revenue.
Yeah, and I think with the fame that you have, you can get some whitelist pretty easily instead of farming 200 hours of Discord, right? And speaking about building your business, so you started as a solopreneur, right? And we were on the space together last Thursday, so 3 days ago, and you were telling that you were basically doing one client a day. And you were saying that you needed to scale. What was this moment when you told yourself, okay, enough the solopreneurship, let's scale this agency? Because there are some people like Justin Welsh, I think you know him. He's a solopreneur dude, and he just say and stick to this whole solopreneurship thing. I think NFT God is doing the same thing, but I'm not sure about that. What about you? What's your mindset in this thing?
Yeah, it's I'm in a period of reflection right now, actually, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because when you start a business, like nothing happens, and then
Mm,
everything happens at once. That's
mm,
I'm not sure. It's not my sentence. It's not my quote, but I don't remember who said it. But I think it's really accurate. So
yeah.
to give you some context here, I had one client, and then I got another person inquiring within the same month I started doing the ghostwriting. So I got one client, I got two clients, I got three clients, and then I
Mm,
lost my first client. Then I got another client, and then I got another client, etc. And now I'm at a point where I'm just getting so many, just to clarify the difference between someone like Justin Welch, for example, and someone
mm,
like me is Justin Welch is not making money from ghostwriting.
yeah.
He's not even making money from copywriting. He's making
Yeah.
money from selling a course, right?
Yes.
And that is the big difference. I'm not looking to sell a course because I just don't think Twitter is reliable enough for you to have a proven method that will work in a year from now or even 6 months from now. Like NFT
Hmm.
God launched his Twitter course like 4 or 5 months ago now, but I'm going
Mm,
to be honest, it's completely obsolete right now.
yeah.
Not completely, but it's largely obsolete because the method that he used to gain 100 and something thousand followers no longer work these in 2024. The algorithm has changed a lot, right? So I
Yes.
always have a little bit of a laugh when I see people referring to Danko, J.K. Molina, or Justin Welsh as
Yeah.
copywriters, because
Yeah.
realistically they are no longer copywriters. They are now infopreneurs, right? And their
Hmm.
main business is to do banger tweets for themselves and then sell a course on the back of it, right? So
Mm,
I just want to point that out. I'm not trying to shame them, right? It's all well and good to want to sell courses. I have no problem with that. But their main business is no longer, copywriting or
yeah.
ghostwriting. And I'm not at a stage where I want to sell a course. I'm not saying it will never happen, but at the moment, I just don't feel like it's worth the purchase for someone to buy a Twitter growth course, because there are just too many changes. But yeah, so in my case, I'm at a point where I didn't have a lot of leads. Before I would get a few leads per month. Effectively, the first 2 months I had 2 leads, and then I got 3, and then I got 4. And since December 31st, so since the turn of the year, I've had over 15 leads coming in my inbox. So,
Oh,
it's really ramping up. Somehow I'm starting to have a bit of recognition in the space, and I'm just getting quite a few leads, on a daily basis almost now. So
yeah.
I'm at a point where I've been giving out some gigs to some friends, I've given out 3 gigs this month, and, so I'm changing lives out here,
Yeah.
basically. But, I've worked in agency for so long that I feel that I would have the ability to start an agency where it's a pretty simple business model, right? If I have a
Yeah.
copywriter or a ghostwriter in my team, and I take on the client, and they get a 80-20 split or something along those lines, just to kind of like give you an example, and then I keep 20% of it, and all I have to do is manage the com between the client and my team, and I
Yeah.
get a 20% cut. So if I get 5 clients this way, then it gives it 20% times 5 equal 100%. So if I can have
Hmm.
5 clients that I'm outsourcing within my team to other copywriters, I'm effectively gaining another new client in terms of pure revenue. Um, and that's kind of like how I'm looking at it. I'm just passing on so many opportunities right now that if I was to start an agency, I would be able to keep them. And, it quickly adds up when you have 5, 6, 10 clients. If you quickly become as that guy, I guess, the leads are coming in quite often, and right now there are some clients that I'm just, purely refusing because they are just not expensive enough for me to even kind of
Okay.
like consider it, right? But I also know some ghostwriters who, live in, much cheaper country than where I live, and if they would be happy to take a $500 client,
Yeah.
that is not like obviously 10 hours a day, right? Whereas for me, someone who is $500, it's not even worth my time, to be honest,
Yeah.
because my hourly rate right now has like increased significantly, right? So,
Yeah.
and at the same time, I would be quite happy. And it's not just for the money, right? But I'm thinking, like, I have so many friends who have, a talented pen in the space,
Yeah.
but don't necessarily know how to market themselves that well. I know they can write, I know they can research, but they don't really have that marketing funnel mindset, right? And I would be really happy to work with, 4 or 5 guys and kind of like helping them change their lives the way I've changed mine. So, there is obviously a monetary incentive for me, but there's also like a humanitarian incentive where I would just be feeling really accomplished if I could help other people, make some money along the way with me. So that's kind of
Yeah.
like my mindset for launching this agency. It's
That's
not
a
done
good.
yet. It's still a lot of, it's very fresh idea. Actually, I've got another. I'm launching something actually this week. I don't want to say too much on it, but stay tuned. I'm launching a business, a service this week around writing, but it's not exactly ghostwriting.
Follow Kelano underscore ETH on Twitter and you will see it. The link will be on the description, guys. But you mentioned Justin Wells, John Coe, they started, I believe, I did not research them, but they started as a copywriter, a ghostwriter. I think Justin Wells was the growth guy of LinkedIn when he started like this. So are you ready to make the transition between being a ghostwriter into being an agency owner?
Yeah, I mean, I've worked in agencies, for 6, 7 years, so I've got a
Yeah.
pretty good experience. I've set up departments, when I was hired as social media director in a small agency, like an independent agency. And that was a fancy title because I was the only person in the social media department. So I was the social media junior, lead, programmer, and director at the same time. So I've got the experience of building an agency from scratch, or at least building a department from scratch. So yeah, I think I'm pretty comfortable with the idea of building an agency. It's really not something that is like, I mean, I'm not saying it's easy, right? But I
Yeah.
know the how to, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm just thinking, why not? And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If it works, it works. I've
Yeah.
started so many things in my life that haven't worked, and a few of them have worked. But you need to shoot the arrow to hit the target. That's all it is, and you probably need more than one arrow. And yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just gonna shoot my shot.
Yeah. And just to make it clear, you're only focused on X right now, on regarding ghostwriting, or sometimes you're doing maybe some ghostwriting on LinkedIn or any other platforms.
Well, like posting content across multiple platform in itself is really not a problem. I have a client where we push most of the content that goes on Twitter on LinkedIn as well.
Okay.
If you have a scheduling tool, like I use Typefully, for example,
Yeah.
because it's cheap and it does exactly what I need. You can push content on LinkedIn and Twitter at the same time. So we do sometimes go multi-platform, but I would say the main thing, yeah, for Web3, Twitter or X is the number one platform. So that is my key focus. Yeah.
So why are you not? I've checked your LinkedIn, and why are you not duplicating your X content onto LinkedIn, for instance?
I just can't stand LinkedIn. I'm gonna be honest, man.
Me
It's
too.
just so cringe. There's people like the DMs I get, like people asking you to book a call. They don't even know you. Like they barely even say hello to you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just really dislike the platform a lot. And I think it's just getting worse and worse. So it
Yeah.
is something I should be pushing more. But I just don't like the platform. And the problem, I guess the way LinkedIn works, is that if you just post good content, it doesn't really matter. LinkedIn requires, I think, a lot more engagement than Twitter to for
Yes.
from a discoverability perspective. Like, you don't get recommended that much if you don't have people following you and people
Hmm.
liking your content in the first place, and then the algorithm will push you to a second circle and third circle, right?
Yeah.
Whereas with Twitter, I feel like it's a lot easier to gain traction by because you get recommended a lot more than on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. That's just my feeling, my opinion. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just fading LinkedIn, and that's my big mistake. But yeah, I feel like it's and I just don't really have the time to. I don't have the time to invest in starting this being a reply guy on LinkedIn as well as being a reply guy on Twitter. So right now,
Yeah.
the way I look at it, like I can only expand when I am feeling strong enough on one platform. So I'm
Yeah.
trying not to devise my attention and my time onto too many platforms because I still feel like I have a ton of work to do on Twitter before I can say, okay, you know what, I'm going to start allocating 1 or 2 hours extra a day to LinkedIn because really I've only got seven and like just under 8,000 followers.
Hmm.
And I would really like to be at like 20,000 plus before the end of 2024.
Hmm.
And that means there is a lot of work to be done on X before I feel like, okay, I've achieved, my medium term goal on X. Let me kind of, try to start pushing LinkedIn. That's kind of like how I feel. It's mostly because of, you know, yeah, the no desire to split my time to
Mm.
push Twitter, LinkedIn, when I feel like I still have a lot to do on Twitter.
It's funny because I've interviewed Leon, I interviewed Alex's building, asked them the same questions, and we all have quite the same opinion regarding LinkedIn. So I'm like, okay, so let's build this pod in LinkedIn and just duplicate the content on Twitter, and that's it. But it's another story. Speaking about LinkedIn, I watched a replay, or I think it was a YouTube video of Gary Vee, so that you like a lot. And he was mentioning, he was looking in the camera and he was saying, 2024, the free platforms on social media is going to be LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts, and TikTok. So I'm curious about what do you feel about social media, and especially social medias in Web3? Because yes, X is the hub of Web3, but what do you think about other platforms regarding Web3, and what do you think about other platforms for Web3?
I mean, if Gary Vee says it, he's been historically correct quite often. So I tend to believe him, if that makes sense, right? But once again, for me, it's just about like how much time I have to allocate, and
Yeah,
I'm pretty busy with my clients right now. But I agree, like it is. I think it is an untapped platform in Web3, and if we were to see a fairly large influx of Web3 people posting on LinkedIn often enough, then
yeah,
it probably would become a more enjoyable platform, right? So I guess it's kind of like the chicken and egg concept, where as long as there are not enough Web3 people in there, I don't really like it. But if I don't go on it, then no one else will go on it. So
mm,
it is a bit of a vicious circle that maybe I need to be one of those people breaking that vicious circle and move my ass to LinkedIn as well.
mm,
When it comes to TikTok, I think it's a really awesome platform. I use TikTok for my own business. Like I also have an e-com business, a small
mhm,
supplement brand, and I use TikTok quite a lot. I mean, I don't really like the platform myself, like for my
mm,
personal enjoyment, if you know what I mean. I'm not a
yeah,
TikTok scroller at all, but I recognize that it's one of the hot platforms, and it's one of the platforms that is the easiest to go viral right now. Like there are some moms, literally posting content that get millions of views.
yeah,
Some Susans and some Karens posting
crazy.
content that just get millions of views.
Mm,
And they're posting it with literally no edit. It's just a straight up recording in their kitchen talking about X, Y, Z, and they
mm,
go absolutely viral. So I think TikTok is really good. I just don't think TikTok is really for the kind of content I want to personally make around Web3, So I think
mhm,
it's got a lot of potential, especially in a bull cycle where you can really talk about, upcoming projects or like ways
yeah,
to make money in NFTs and all that stuff. More like
mm,
on a tips or tips based, alpha based, I think is,
yeah,
is a place where TikTok could really work well. more like kind of news, more like news related. So there is this channel called NFT on Instagram, and
Yeah.
that's how they grew in the last bull market. And I think they put the type of content that would probably work well on TikTok if they were to turn it from image to audio video content. So I
Hmm.
think it will be a big place for this cycle because it will drive a lot of views, and if it drives a lot of views, it drives a lot of attention, and it will onboard some people to the NFT space because they will, the TikTok videos will say that they turn $10 into $17,000 in 4 days, and that type of content is always going to attract some innocent people who think they will be able to replicate that. So that's kind of my opinion on TikTok, but it will definitely onboard some people this cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, I agree with you on this part. You mentioned that you had not a lot of time to allocate to another platform. So that means that you might not have a lot of free time in real life, right? Right. So what I mean is the following: it's like how, since you know a lot of the meme of Web3 is like just grind and stay on the on Twitter all day long. My question is the following: how do you balance your free time, your business, your personal branding? How does it go?
I'm not really good at taking a break, if I'm honest. I'm on my laptop 14 hours a day, from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. And then I go to the gym here and there, a few times a week. And I take my dog out to two, 3 times a day. And that is really the extent of my leisure time.
Mhm.
I love what I'm doing, so I don't feel like I need breaks. I don't burn out. I've never experienced burnout. I don't know what it feels like because I just
Mm.
enjoy what I'm doing so much that I feel like I'm missing out if I take a break for a full day. Like literally, that's how I feel. Sometimes I'm married, so I have to give my wife some time.
Mhm.
Yesterday, for example, I was out actually, not with my wife, but I was out. I met some other Web3 DJs actually. I met the Art DAO crew. We went for a breakfast, and then
Okay.
I met with Leon from Unfungible. I spent the evening with him and his brother. And obviously, that was Web3 related in terms of like the people I was with. But obviously, I was
Mhm.
not on Twitter for the whole day. I was not on, connected to my laptop. And I'm not gonna lie, when I came home, it was already 11:30 or midnight. I'm not sure. Maybe it was even later than that. And I was kind of tempted to just hop on the laptop to kind of see what did I miss. Is
Yeah.
there something I can tweet about, talk about right now? I took some notes during the day on things I wanted to share, and I was like, should I start writing this content now? It was like 1 in the morning, and I was like, dude, like this can probably wait tomorrow now. So I'm definitely not the best person to tell you how to be moderate, but when it comes
Mm.
to how I manage my day in general, as you mentioned earlier, and I think I mentioned that on the last space we were together, I kind of focus on one client per day, and that takes
Yeah.
me a few hours for the day, and then I will focus on, the other things that I'm doing, which is
Yeah.
obviously my own content. I'm really trying to
Mm.
go hard on spaces this year, so I'm basically doing a space every single day right now as a guest.
That's great.
So that's really to try to push my own spaces again because I'm looking to get paid to do spaces, brother. And for
Yeah.
that, and an authority on Twitter spaces. So that is one of my big focus. And unfortunately, if you are doing 1 or 2 spaces a day, that's easily 1 or 2 hours that are going to be taken away
Yes.
from your day, where you're not doing anything else. Sorry, you're not doing anything else for the business, if that makes sense. So that is what's taking me a lot of time right now. And yeah, I don't have a lot of hobbies, to be honest. I'm actually
Mm.
quite boring outside of Twitter. I literally do nothing else. I just go to the
Mm.
gym, I walk my dog, and I spend time with my wife. And I don't do anything, literally. I just love what I'm doing, so I feel really fulfilled when I'm, grinding and pushing my business. I want to obviously have financial goals that I want to reach for my business, and that is what excites me the most. That is what makes me happy. So yeah, I don't have burnout, and I'm just on the laptop 24, not 24, but like let's say a solid 14 hours a day, every single day, Monday to Monday. I don't even know what day it is today, to be honest. It's Sunday.
Eh,
Okay,
yeah, it's Sunday.
so yeah,
And we're
that's
making
just
a
the life I live.
podcast. I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. All right. Yeah, I'm doing. quite the same thing as you, but I'm quite addicted also to biohacking, so I'm doing those natural things. But yeah, 10 hours, 12 hours a day on the laptop. I love it. Final question for you, my bro Kelano, because there's a lot of young people in the space, even in the community. There's a lot of young people, 20 years old, 18 years old, and so I'm gonna have 30 years old by May 3rd, and you will have so 38 on May 2nd. So what would you tell to your, if it was your you of 20 years old that want to grind and that was missing something, what would you tell to the young Kalano of 20 years old?
I would say try as much stuff as you can. The like when I say sometimes I say, I feel like I have an unfair advantage compared to the younger people in the space. Is that
Mm-hmm.
I've lived at least 10 different lives. Like we went over some of those. I've been in the music industry, I've been in the life coaching industry, I've been in the dropshipping world, I've been in the media agency world. So I've done a lot of things, right? And I think that just gives me a good understanding of multiple of various industries and topics, and you just have so many transferable skills that you acquire when you do a bunch of different shit that you don't even really know that you're transferring that skill, but it just helps in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
So like I said, for example, the life coaching, I studied psychology, I did life coaching. That just gives me, I think it gives me a really good understanding of the human brain, the human behavior, and all that stuff. That I think makes me a pretty good judge of character, and it just helps me understand how people work in their mind quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
My expertise in the media agency world and paid media advertising just gives me a good edge in terms of marketing for Web3. So all these things that I've been doing over the years have just kind of combined into one big bowl of knowledge, that I think is giving me an edge that some people don't have. So if you're 16, 17, 18, 20, and you like, obviously you don't have that much life experience, right? I'm not saying uh, 18 years old are stupid, like quite the opposite. I was actually talking to a dude yesterday, 2 days ago, who's 19, and very impressive kid for 19 years old. But he was like kind of feeling like, oh, I look at what you're doing, and you're doing so much more, etc. And I was like, dude, when I was 19, I was just touching my own willy and playing Counter Strike.
Same.
So like, don't beat yourself up because someone who's 10, 15 years older than you feels like they are way further ahead of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at 18, 20, like you literally can do nothing for the next 10 years. And if you wake up at 30 and then you start grinding, within 2 years, your life can change and you will only be 32. And let me tell
Yeah.
you, 32 is young as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm 37, and I just feel like I'm just getting started, literally. So I would say
I
try
love
as
it.
much things, as many different things as you can, experience it all, and don't be afraid to drop something to try something else if you feel like it's not the right thing, because you have the advantage of youth, and youth is not, in my mind, is built for you to experience and gain that life experience that will help you turn into yourself into the best version of you that you can in the next few years.
Wow. Try it, guys. Everyone needs to try. Even at 29, I'm trying a lot of shit, and it's a lot of experience. One final word, Kelano, are we gonna end up this podcast? It's been 1 hour, an amazing conversation with you. So yeah, what's your final word?
Are you ready?
Oh, I'm rugging? No, no, no.
No, you're back. You're back.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah, what's your final word then, Kelano, for closing this podcast?
I would say, a lot of people ask me, and I see a lot of people who don't necessarily know what they want to do, or like how to start earning money in Web3. Because obviously this is like a Web3 focused podcast, I guess.
Mhm.
So I would say, if you don't know what you want to do in Web3,
Mhm.
just focus on becoming a content creator. Whether you're going to be doing project breakdowns or marketing analysis, like whatever kind of content you want to put out, just put out 10 times more than you're doing now, because opportunities are coming for influencers or KOLs or whatever you want to call it, right? And you don't necessarily have to know what you want to do, but if you're putting great content, opportunities will come to you, and then you can, either take those opportunities or pass on them, but that will start something that you probably don't know yet, and that will lead you to another opportunity and another opportunity. So I'll just take an example, right? But let's say you're writing a thread for Play Amber, that's the hot project, the hot free mint of the moment, and you send it to them, and they read it, they get back to you, and then somehow you start being in touch with them, and then you ask, and then they offer you to become an ambassador for them because they really liked your thread. Like this literally how stuff starts, for most people. It's just because you put out a piece of content that someone really liked, they reach out to you, and then an opportunity happens, and then you become an advisor, and then you're going to start working as like, some capacity in the project. You're going to be exposed to something else, which will be leading you to another thing, etc. And like it becomes a rabbit hole of opportunities, and it
Yeah.
often just start from you putting out as much good content as you can. So don't worry too much, if you are young in the NFT space or just young in life in general, that you don't know what you want to do yet. Just put out content, and things will happen from on the back of that. And then, just pick and choose what resonates with you. And then if you find something you really like, then double down on that, for like 6 months. And then, because, 1 or 2 months is not really going to give you a good idea of anything. Just like doing podcast, YouTube, Twitter, you need to commit to something for the next 6 months as hard as you can. And then you will see, and more opportunities will come out of that as well. That would
Yeah.
be my little advice.
Opportunities are everywhere. And I'm committing 52 podcasts, 52 spaces a year for this year. Thanks a lot, Kelano. Thanks
That's
a
what
lot
I'm
for your
talking
time.
about.
And that's it for the reminder show, guys. We'll see you next week for another episode with an amazing interview that will share you later on. Cheers. Bye.
Thank you so much for having me. Bye.